Please be advised that the virtual meeting space that you are entering is an open format discussion meeting where the conversation is based on the subject matter that's contained in the title of the room. This video is designed to provide you with an outline for all the rules, regulations and expectations for participation regarding group behaviour, personal interaction and the standard group norms in accordance with every single one of the virtual meeting spaces that's provided by the Liberation Place. Please be aware that failure to follow these specific guidelines will result in you being asked to leave the virtual space. If this happens, it does not mean that you've been banned from future meetings and you can never return. It will, however, require a conversation regarding group conduct prior to your active participation in the future. Also, please be aware that the audio or video recording of this particular meeting space is strictly prohibited, and failure to respect this guideline will result in immediate removal from the space and the possibility of legal action if required. Please reach out to the Liberation Place via the email provided on their contact page at www.theliberationplace.com for more information on this and any other matter of concern. Please remember that one of the most important things for this space to be effective in its purpose is privacy and confidentiality. We need to respect this for every single person attending this meeting at all times. As such, please make sure that the only people listening to the conversation are people who are participating in the meeting in a meaningful and respectful manner, and that the information being shared in the main conversation or the chat function cannot be overheard or overseen by any passers-by or other people that may be present in your immediate vicinity. While many people attending these meetings may find the experience to be extremely therapeutic, it is really important to understand that this space is not intended to be group therapy. As such, the people speaking in this meeting will be sharing their own experiences on the subject matter, talking about what has and has not worked for them when using the skills that are associated with the specific topic of this particular discussion. It is not part of this conversation to explore personal experiences in any great detail or to get into specifics about past trauma that may have a negative impact on other people attending this group. It's important to recognise that when joining in with the conversation at any point in time, you always try to speak from a personal point of view and you do your best to stay on the current topic of conversation wherever possible, using clear and concise communication as much as you possibly can. This is done so that the people who are listening to the discussion understand that the participants are in no way giving advice on what should or should not be done. In fact, we speak about our own experiences so that those that are listening can take or leave the information that's being shared in the conversation to do with it as they wish. And the active participants of this conversation, which includes the facilitators, are not responsible for any actions that are taken outside of this space. The Liberation Place and the facilitators of its groups do not provide crisis support in any way whatsoever. Therefore, the Liberation Place and all of its facilitators are not responsible for supporting your crisis requirements. Should you find yourself in a crisis situation, please contact your local crisis support centre, call your local emergency services, or go to your local emergency department immediately so that you can receive the treatment and support that you need to help you with the situation that you are currently struggling with. This group is designed to be an open format discussion meeting, so if and when you would like to participate in the conversation, we ask that you raise your virtual hand to let the facilitator know that you want to come in on the conversation with a comment or a question, and they will bring you into the discussion whenever it is possible to do so. Please try to make sure that there is only one person speaking at a time, and as was said before, please always try to speak from a personal point of view, avoiding the act of advice giving or telling others in the space what to do. Checking in and out of the conversation is requested for all participants. This is seen as being respectful to the space and the people that are attending the meeting, so that individuals are not seen as lurkers or voyeurs to the conversation. There is absolutely no requirement, however, for you to use your actual legal name. And should you choose to use a pseudonym, it is completely acceptable. The request, though, is that you use the same name in all of our virtual meetings so that the facilitator can recognize you when you're in the space. The choice of name is completely up to you, as long as it is not offensive or triggering in any way to the other people in the space. Use of offensive or triggering names would result in you being removed from the meeting, which also applies to your profile picture. So please make sure that your profile picture is one that's not offensive, triggering, or distracting to those in attendance. Use of a profile picture of this nature will result in a facilitator requesting you change it or your removal from the group. You can complete your individual check-in in a number of different ways. Audibly, on or off camera, whichever you feel comfortable with, or you can do it in written format through the chat function at the side of the screen. If you wish to check in audibly, please let the facilitator know upon entering the space by raising your virtual hand, which is done through the Reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. If you do not wish to check in this way, please do so in writing when you're prompted to do so in the chat function. The check-in for every single meeting that's facilitated by the Liberation Place is exactly the same, and it basically revolves around you letting us know what your name is, what you're here for, whether that's a substance, a process, both, your own personal development, working on your mental health, or just listening in to learn about behaviour change in general. In this space, there is absolutely no need to identify as an addict or an alcoholic or any other label that you do not wish to identify with. During your check-in is also your opportunity to communicate to the facilitator in a clear and concise way what topic you would like us to get into inside of the conversation today. Please remember though that check-ins are meant to be short and concise, and they are not a time to be used to discuss your individual life stories or glorifications of past activities, and it is the facilitator's responsibility to let you know if you're taking up too much time in your check-in. Should this happen, it is not a personal attack, nor is it a criticism or judgment of your behaviour in any way whatsoever. Inside of the conversational space, if you're getting into anything that's seen as being offensive or triggering for people in the group, it's the responsibility of the facilitator to maintain the integrity of the meeting. Should you participate in behaviour of this nature, you would be asked to stop discussing that particular topic, and if you continued, you would be asked to leave the meeting. Now, this doesn't usually mean that you've been removed from programming for good, and you can never return to any kind of group or meeting in the future. However, it would require a conversation on group participation before you could actively get involved in a group in the future. If something like this does happen to you, please reach out to the Liberation Place via their email on their contact page at www.theliberationplace.com to find out more information at a later date. Remember that the specific guidelines associated with the conversation itself also apply in the chat function of this meeting, in that the chat function is there for you to share things that you may be celebrating, check in and out of the conversation, ask questions of the facilitator should you wish to remain silent, and support each other with comments in a healthy and respectful way. The chat function is not there for you to have a social or political rant about the things in your life, to change the topic of conversation away from the main discussion, post any offensive or triggering comments, or participate in the use of inappropriate humour of any kind. It can be incredibly distracting for people in a group if things like this are happening in the chat, and failure to stop your participation in this type of behaviour when you've been asked to do so would also result in you being removed from the space. Complete abstinence from substance use is not a requirement for attending this group. However, please remember that the people participating in these meetings may be in a vulnerable state. If you are someone who's been using a substance today, please keep your microphone and camera off and refrain from interacting with people in the space, simply out of respect for those attending. This is done because it can be really triggering for people to see or hear somebody else that's under the influence of a substance. particularly if they're early in recovery or if it's their own substance of choice that you've been using. You do not have to leave the meeting. Stick around and listen to the conversation. Just refrain from interacting out of respect for the people who are participating in the group. Also, out of respect for those attending our groups, please refrain from smoking on camera, vaping on camera, and eating on camera, as each of these behaviours have been identified as inappropriate and triggering things to see for many people inside of our meeting spaces. Should you be participating in these particular behaviours, the facilitator may turn your camera off or ask you to leave the meeting. By clicking the I agree tab shown in the meeting waiting room, you are formally acknowledging your recognition and understanding of the requirements for attending the meetings that are hosted by the Liberation Place. Thank you for your participation. Enjoy the meeting, and please reach out via email should you have any questions, comments or concerns by using the email address located at the website www.theliberationplace.com.